Hello everybody, it's Kate here. I am doing my Spotfire session a bit early today, so apologies to anybody that this is messing around, but I've got really busy because it's the end of the year and this is when a lot of things come to a head because there's a lot of change, and as a result I sometimes get very busy around November, December because people need to sort things out before they take leave. So that's why I've had to move some of these Spotfire sessions to accommodate client needs at this stage, which might mean that I might move this to a later time so that I'm less likely to change them. Anyway, today I want to talk to you about decision making and is your decision fair? And the reason I raise this is because so many people tell me that they just want things to be fair, and fair is something which is sometimes difficult to define. What is fair? What is fair and reasonable? And that sometimes takes a bit of a pub test. Like, could you run this past a group of people at the pub and get a tick? So let me tell you about some of the things that I see where the fair test doesn't always come into play or is problematic. And I think as leaders we would identify with this, but I think that when we are dealing with people who have been our friends, who are our friends, were our friends, we might have gone up the ladder and we have been promoted and suddenly we are leading and managing our friends. That can create a perception that the decision-making process is not fair. And another one is if we are dealing with family members. So if you're in a family business and you have family members, you need to have really squeaky clean rules and governance so that you make sure that any decisions that you make are perceived to be fair and not in favour of family members, because you can be family when you're not in the business, but in the business you will have other people that you need to work with, and if anybody is deemed to receive a benefit from being family, that is going to upset the apple cart and it will create a perception of unfairness. So those are the two main ones that come up all of the time. If somebody's a friend or a colleague or somebody like that, it can be these people seem to get special treatment because of the relationship that you have with them. If that happens, there's a problem. So you have to look at the decision-making process. The other thing that can happen that impacts on fairness is if you're dealing with somebody who has long-term ill health or has a disability. Now, if somebody is unwell, then they may not be able to work full-time hours, or if they have a disability, they might not be able to work full-time hours, or they might not be able to accomplish in a day the same amount as somebody who's not ill or doesn't have a disability. But does that mean that their contribution is less? Should they be paid less? What is the decision-making process around accommodating the needs of people who may have something going on at this time which is impacting on their capacity to work, or something which is a long-term issue which would impact on their capacity to work that job to the full extent, and we need to accommodate that. So fair doesn't always mean equal. And it's really important that fair doesn't equal, because people have different needs at different times. And if you were unwell or something was happening to you, you would like your employer to be able to accommodate your short-term arrangements, your short-term health issues, so that you don't lose your job as a result of being unwell, but you might need to come back to work on a part-time basis, or you might need to have your work, the work that you do, modified to be able to accommodate your needs. Equally, if you've got a disability, it doesn't mean you can't make a significant contribution to the workplace. It just means that you need to make some adjustments so that you can contribute to the workplace. So fair does not equal equal. Like, we cannot assume that everybody's the same. We're not robots. If we were robots, we wouldn't be even having this conversation, but we're not. So there's all these other things that come into play. So one of the things that you need to do in order to address these issues and to ensure that whatever decisions you make meet the pub test is you need to have rules. You need to have a process about how you make decisions that's transparent, that's open, that is open to being discussed, that has integrity, so that people in your workplace know where they stand and will be comfortable that decisions that are being made by management and senior management are fair. Because when they're not fair, if it's deemed that you're making decisions that are not fair, that you're favouring certain people within the organisation, or you're actually not including people and giving them an opportunity to participate, if those things are happening, then you're going to get pushback. And the pushback might look like a whole range of different things. It might be verbal, it might be behavioural, it could be somebody leaves the organisation because they get tired of it. There could be a whole range of different things that happen because your workplace is deemed to be unfair. So often when we work in small business and small teams, we might be quite reactive to circumstances and come up with a solution which we think is going to work on the day. But it won't necessarily work in the long term, and it doesn't always pass the pub test if we're looking at, are we truly being fair? So think about the process. It's always in the planning that we avoid the problems. So you need to come up with, how do you as an organisation make decisions, and how do you apply that process to every individual? So you'll have overachievers, you'll have people who are not currently able to meet full-time workload for a whole range of different reasons, and then you're going to have people that could do the work, but for some other reason they seem to be overlooked with respect to training or opportunity or inviting them to a round of golf or whatever it might be. Think about, are your actions fair? Would they be perceived as fair by outsiders looking in? Because if you can pass that test, then you're doing okay. If you, as an outsider, if somebody outside was looking in, had a look at the organisation and went, then you need to go back and revisit what are your rules and processes around making decisions, and how have you communicated that information to the team so that they feel included and they feel that the situation and the processes are fair. Hope that helps. Let me know if there's anything I can do for you, but fairness is just so important. When people feel like they're being treated unfairly, they will react accordingly. They will buck up. All right. Have a good one, and I'll speak to you soon. Cheers.